It's one of those days. It is stressful, but it's also a little bit of relief. You work your tails off. Our staff worked tremendously hard since last April. Zoning in on each position, what we needed, who we needed, the type of players that fit here at Missouri Western. And so it's one of those days that you get really, really excited about the class that's coming in, but it's also, too, you get really excited about, you're moving back in and connecting with your players and getting ready for spring ball. And it's just a revolving door, just keeps going, doesn't stop. And that's what we have to be as a team, as a staff, and as recruiters, just kind of relentless. So it's just to see those kids' faces, to call them after they've, committed, or call them after they've signed and sent their paperwork in, and just to see the pictures all over social media. It's fun. I mean, it's one of the best days. Besides playing the game of football, it's one of the best days, just being a college football coach.
Coach, a small signing class, 24, like we talked about, but you only lost 4 starters last year. So just talk about what you were looking for in this group with so much coming back.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, if you look at it, having a lot of kids coming back, losing 4 starters, when you look at our depth and where we want to be, and that's literally where I would like to be every year, is you want to try to sign another football team. If you look closely to our offense, we've signed 5 offensive linemen, we signed 2 tight ends, we signed some receivers, we signed a couple extra. We were a little thin at the quarterback position. We signed 1 running back, so we've signed a typical, just a starting offense. Defensively, you look at that too. We signed 4 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, 4 DBs. We almost were 1 short of the defensive side of the football too. So we just signed another football team. So that 2022 football class, you look at it as you progress through the situation and how they work and train. It'd be awesome for all 4 of them, all 24 of them, some capacity to be starters. And then you have a kicker. We added Preston. He's a really, really good kicker, and we've done some really good things and pretty much solidified all of that. Our depth at each position we took care of, adding as we go through the process. But on the back end of it, we added some transfers that semester a little bit that are with us now, that filled some holes in, so which allowed us to really focus on, hey, we just need another football team. We need a 2020 senior football team. So, and that's what we looked for, and that's what we got. So really fired up about the type of kids we got. We got some really, really talented players, great people, but awesome students as well too. So just the typical fit for Missouri Western.
A lot of winners in this class too, from a high school perspective. Some state champions, some state qualifiers. Was that necessarily a focus, just going after that kind of mindset, or did that just happen?
I don't know if it's a focus. It kind of happens. You guys that you like here and there and stuff like that, but you become more intrigued. Someone that's won. I went to the state championship 2 years back to back, or played in it in some capacity. That a kid that's been there, that knows what it takes to win, knows the hard work and effort that to get to a championship or make it to the playoffs. If that's established already in the high school, they've seen it, it's a lot easier to press on them when they get to the university here and we start working stuff. It's just an easier transition.
You had 3 kids right here from your own backyard. I know 2 of them were looking at the school up the road as well. Just you talk about keeping talent in town and how excited you are to get Carlos, Jaron, and Quentin in town.
Awesome. Obviously Lafayette's done a great job, and they've won a bunch of football games, and it's been good to see. But to get local talent, get guys from St. Joe that I see when we go out to the games and watch all the local games, just to see them play and all the great things that they do, the speed, the athleticism that 2 of them have. Offensive lineman wise, he's very, very productive and moving, and he's super athletic, and it really fit the picture for us. And so we wanted to get on them early, and they were some of the earliest ones that we truly offered in our class, just because I did want to keep them here, and they know what St. Joe is, the town of St. Joe. What it is, what it stands for, and it's important to them, and that's why they wanted to stay, and that's why they wanted to be a Griffon here at Missouri Western.
How important is that to keep that local talent here and not let them get out of the city and go somewhere else too?
Yeah, it's important. It's very important to me. But again, it all comes down, and a lot of people look at that. It's really it's a fit, too. Those guys are 3 solid human beings. Their grades are great. They all got awesome academic scholarships here, and then they got great football scholarships too, and they're great football players. So it was a perfect fit for us. But we want to obviously we don't want anyone leaving hometown. You can keep them here. Got to keep them here, and it's tough, because they were talented. They got other schools and bigger schools that were sniffing around at them too, and we just want to make sure that that we stay local. And the more local people we get, the more people you get in the town, and we've got a great attendance right now, and just continue to get local kids. It brings a lot more people from the community, I believe, too, because of their connection.
Jaron obviously known for his arm, but pretty mobile too, pretty quick. Is that kind of the mold you were looking for with your other two quarterbacks in this class, just kind of given what Reagan is given as a dual threat there late in the year?
Yeah, and that's one of the things with recruiting quarterbacks. It's the toughest thing. You got one that can throw really, really well that's not as athletic. You got one that's super, super athletic that can't throw as well. The perfect dynamic is one that can run really good and throw really good. Everybody's trying to find them. Everybody's trying to find. But yes, that's what we've always tried to find. That's what we've always kind of been looking at. But it gets back to the situation of trying to get both. Usually those guys are super high, going higher and faster than than our level. Absolutely. But for him and what he does, the way he moves with the ball in his hands, and be able to see visually down the field and be able to and complete balls, it's great. And then to be able to run the quarterback, which you saw the latter part of our season, we were able to do that. That's what we want to be. We want to be able to run the football, and when you add a quarterback into the run game, it just changes the whole dynamic of a defense of trying to stop you.
You've talked about wanting to establish the run game maybe a little more consistently, a little more early. Certainly some bright young pieces at running back. Getting 5 offensive linemen, does that make you feel good, just solidifying some depth up front there?
Oh, yeah, we have to. I mean, and last year we were really young. We're only going to lose 1 offensive lineman after next year, too. So to stack that up with 5 guys there to let them grow, it's really tough to come and play as a freshman in the MIAA, a true freshman. It doesn't happen very often. And so with that being said, being able to get those guys here, let them redshirt, let them get a little bit bigger, faster, stronger, and then to kind of fit in right where they fit, right behind those the younger offensive line that we have now, it was a really good situation for us. So, and that's what you want to do. You just got to create consistency and retention through each position that you have, and that's our focus. And you look at that, I mean, we're pretty solid at all of our positions depth-wise right now, and then so let's just add another one at each one. Now, instead of being 2 deep or 3 deep really good, now we're 3 or 4 deep at that position, and continue to strive and work in making these kids get bigger, faster, stronger, and be explosive and become playmakers for us in the future.
You've had some additions to your coaching staff in the last couple of weeks. Can you just talk about the guys you brought on?
Yeah, first one that got here was a new offensive assistant, Justin Stollberg. He played at Butler Community College. He played at La Tech as a quarterback, and then most recently was at Mississippi State as a quarterback there, played there, and then he was a student assistant, restricted earnings guy. We brought him here. He's going to do a really, really good job with us. And then, I'm really excited about our new hire. He just got here. We threw him into the fire. I mean, day one. I mean, we had our early morning workouts this morning. He was in there day one, working out with his kids. I introduced him to our team. He just got here, Moses Harper. Great football coach, great football mind. He's been a coordinator before. He's coached a lot of different positions. We brought him in to coach the tight end position. And he's going to take that position to a whole new level. As you know, we've got talent there, really good talent there. We've brought some transfer talent in that's really, really good too. And just with his mind in there, with that room, collaborating on a lot of stuff offensively, it's going to just take us to a whole nother level, I believe.
Can you talk a little bit about the process of going to find these guys? You guys were on the road a lot, and a lot of road trips, right? Day-long road trips somewhere, and the kind of seal deals and everything else. Just take people through that process.
Yeah, I'll give you one. I'll give you 2, really. This is a good example. It's a way longer process. What I'm going to tell you is that you start back in April, you locate your guys, you kind of get your pool as big as you can get it, and then you try to make sure that each one fits. Does he have the grades? Does he have the personality? Does he have the commitment? Does the head coach speak highly of him? Is his film? Yeah, he's really, really good, but if some of those others don't fit, then you kind of slowly start squeezing your pool a little bit, and then all of a sudden this guy might get picked by an FCS school or get an offer here, and then your pool continues to shrink but we always continue to add to it because we try to expand as far as we can because we have the out-of-state waiver that connects with the state of Missouri and stuff too, which works phenomenal. But then it goes into, okay, then you bring them in over the summer. So some of these kids, I'd say half of them were here up this summer. We gave them a tour. They did some tryouts and different things like that. Then you go into the season, you track them throughout their whole season, make sure that they're doing good, their grades are still good, and then boom, as soon as our season's over, you're on the road, you're going to their houses, you're going to their schools. I know Coach Rizzio, I think, made one trip to one school. I don't know how many times. Every time I'm going down to see this kid, one of our top kids that we want to see in Oklahoma, linebacker, that he went down to see a whole bunch of times. But this is what you do to get a kid. And we got two really, really good kids. One, Seth Cromwell, running back, all right, from Colorado, okay. The other one, Braxton White from Texarkana, Texas. He had a UNLV offer, and they dropped him late. He's a really good player. Seth had multiple offers in the state of Colorado. We plucked him from there, from all the really good, from Pueblo and all those different schools. Both Fred and I, not the same day, different days. I got up, we did a 4 a.m. morning workout in the gym. I went home, I slept for 2 hours, I got dressed, and I drove 9 hours to Denver. I did a home visit that night with him. I stayed till about 2 o'clock the next day, and I drove back another 9 hours. So I was 18 hours on the road, 4 hours in Colorado, but I secured the deal with that running back, and he's one of our top, recruits of this class for sure. And if I wouldn't have done that, probably wouldn't have got him because everybody else was all swarm all over. Exact same thing. Fred calls me. He goes, I think we got a really good chance with Braxton. And we were just fired up about it. We worked our tails off. Coach Franks and Coach White worked really, really hard. He goes, Coach, I'm driving down. Okay, we've been to Texarkana Bowl before. It's 9.5 hours. And Fred's I'm going down. We got to get him. He drives in a car, drives 9 hours down, does a home visit that night, stays the night, drives back. Sure enough, both those kids, those were the last week kids that we were fighting for and scratching for. And I think that was like the cherry on the top for their families and for them to know that our commitment and we wanted them that bad, and they're so inclusive to how important our program and our recruiting class for this year would be. Whatever we got to do. And that's one of the things. Make it happen. We talk about that all the time. Fred made it happen. I made it happen. I felt like I got hit by a truck after driving 18 hours in about a 26-hour stint, but it was fun. It was good to get out there. We got to see a couple other recruits. We really picked up some really good kids in Colorado this year. We picked up some great kids from Texas too, so well worth it. One kid can make it, obviously one kid's not going to win a championship or win a bunch of games. One kid can make a huge difference on one side of the ball that can really change games. And we felt those two kids were really, really important. I got to see one of our other quarterbacks that was out there in Colorado. And it worked. The trip worked out really good, but it's whatever you got to do. Got to get them.
24 signed, or you're never done, are you? I mean, or do you have what you need, you think? Or are you still going to try to add more?
We'll always continue to add. We're actually talking to a couple kids that have other possibilities. We got one really good player. He's waiting to find out if he gets into the military schools, get acceptance in that. We're hoping to land him and a couple other kids too. But on the transfer portal has opened up a whole new realm for everybody. So it's like, and you talk to a lot of the coaches and it's like instead of having recruiting periods and pockets, it is recruiting year round now. I mean, you're nonstop. Look at the portal. Okay, there's this kid. You always want to try to find. We've got a great team coming back, and we've just added a bunch of transfers, and we added a bunch of high school kids. So we've got even a better team coming back, but we'll always keep our eyes open and keep the road open just to see if there's someone else that can come in and make a difference, make a huge impact on our football team. But as a freshman class and that like that, we're pretty close to done on that side. It would be more of a transfer or someone that maybe had entered the portal that can come in and help us immediately this next year.
Between the portal and also the COVID years that have kind of changed things, maybe recruiting, what has this been like the last couple of years, including this year, between the portal and with kids having extra years and trying to figure out what to do with everybody, and it maybe varies on class size too? We
had a huge meeting about that, already as a staff, and do we need to change? Because this was like the first year where actually portal was affected with no COVID and all those different things like that. it was really, really awkward. And we talked about it as a staff. I mean, January 1st last year, we had 21 kids committed, really, really good football players, and we picked up another about 6 or 7 on the back end after January. This year, we had 6 or 7 kids committed January 1st, and on the back end, we picked up a ton. The kids were really wanting, hey, I'm going to wait a little bit longer. I'm going to see what's going on. I'm going to see what happens. And I think the Division I's were so focused in on the portal, on the early part of it, and that 15th and everything like that, they put a lot of those guys on the back burner, and then they had to jump back on them later in January. So then, usually in the past, the waters had cleared with all of those, the upper FCS levels and different Division I's. Where to this year, there was still kind of the water was still a little bit muddy, and it didn't let us determine exactly who we were able to get, because I think we lost. There was 3 other offensive linemen I would have taken if we got them that were really good, that got offered FCS offers within the last week. Had nothing. A bunch of D2s, they said they're coming to our place, and then all of a sudden, boom, FCS, FCS, FCS. So we know we're recruiting the right kids, but that was the thing. So we saw a little bit of a later commitment. Will that happen next year? I don't know. It's just I'm thinking it probably will. But I think what's happened is that portal has opened up a thing of where there's still that luring, I can be, Division I or something like that, and those kids aren't making the decisions as fast as they did in the past. So
what's your opinion on that when you obviously have to change recruiting, right? But you're putting it in the hands of people kind of waiting out there. What do you have to use it, you have to utilize it, but what's your opinion on just that whole situation and how you handle it, or how kids should handle it?
Well, I think it might, to be honest with you, Ryan, I think it's probably going to handle itself, because people talk and people hear. There's kids that were getting ready to call us and say, hey, we're coming, and we're like, sorry, you kind of waited too long. We have a bunch of other people that, hey, we want to be at Missouri West, we want to love it, stuff like that. And then you're going to see a lot of kids right now that were thinking that the FCS were offered and FBS were coming. And there's a couple of kids that I know right now that are Oklahoma's still talking to me. Oklahoma's still talking to me. Well, they're not signing anybody else right now. They're done. So it's that luring fact. I think what's going to come back and what will retract is the high school coaches will be like, hey, you better jump on a scholarship when you have one so you don't get left out in the cold. Very similar to a lot of the portal guys that are going in that don't have anything right now.
Just back-to-back bowl seasons, and then last year just not accomplishing what you guys wanted. Just what are you telling these recruits about where you guys envision this program going in the years and kind of where you guys want to take this thing?
Yeah, for sure. It was obviously not anything that we wanted to do. We had some close games. Could we won 10 or 11 games this year with the talent and with the, I guess you would say, experience that we had? No, I'm honest. I'm as honest. Could we have won 8 or 9? Absolutely. I think so for sure. I think we were close. I think the pieces of the puzzle just started connecting later in the latter part of the year on what we are and who we're going to be. Because we are going to be a physical football team. We are going to play with a lot of passion and effort. We're going to play until the clock ends. I mean, that's just who we are as that. But each team is a little bit different each year, and what we were able to do with Coach Brown with the offense, we had a lot of talent in that backfield there, so we played it a lot more two-back stuff, and then they're able to enter a quarterback that could run a little bit. It's like you have 3 running backs back there now, and it gave us a little bit more emphasis there on that end, and I think moving towards that transition will be a lot better. But and then defensively, just looking at what we have coming back, offensively, defensively, and all those positions. The experience level is just going to continue to grow. You look at Evan Shohan, you're going to have to replace him. Very talented player. Sam Webb, very talented player. Those 2 positions, that will probably miss the most. Offensively, got everybody back. Defensively, you had a couple other guys that started at different times and a little bit here and there. But our team's going to be very experienced. And if you look at next year too, which I'm really excited about, so we're going to lose 1 guy on offense after next year, and we're going to lose 3 guys on defense after next year, and that's it. So we were young. That's not an excuse to me. I'll never use an excuse. We were young. I thought we were one of the better athletic teams in the conference. I think we need to get bigger, faster, stronger. I think it was one of the things we kind of got in certain situations, got pushed around a little bit here and there. Coach Manich and our staff is just grinding. They started already a couple weeks ago, and they're pushing hard to get that thing going. And we're going to match that. Once we match that with the athletic and the speed and the talent that we have in that end, I'm looking really forward to next year already.